Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Wayfarer Season 2. My name is Jared Thomas, and we got
Katya,
Zach,
and Riley.
all back here for Season 2. Can you believe it?
we can't.
No.
We're missing one though. We're down one.
We're down one.
down one.
Sad
3
day.
minutes to go, like USA basketball. Yeah, Jonathan couldn't make it tonight. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's the season that we're in. He'll be back, though.
Yeah.
Season 2 is a long journey that we're on, so we'll see him.
He'll be back. Yeah,
He'll
we
be
do
back.
miss him though. But it's good to be back.
Pete.
Good to be back with everybody.
I
I know.
agree.
Nice. Good
Just
stuff.
had to throw
Good to be
something in there.
We're glad.
It is. Yeah, it's good to be back.
We're coming in hot Season 2. As you see, we're all warmed up, ready to go.
You guys have already been with us for a whole season. You know, this is
I mean,
you
this
know,
is the regular rigmarole.
yeah, more natural.
But we couldn't start Season 2 without giving a huge special shout out to 100 Shares Tampa Bay. The grant that they gave us, I mean, it's really is what making
What is it making?
It's
Jared.
making Season 2 possible. It's making it
Barely.
possible. So sincerely, as we start the Season 2, just wanted to give a big shout out to
Yeah.
them. Cheers to them.
Cheers.
Do our
Cheers.
toast.
Good
Thank you
job.
so much.
Yep.
Never alone.
Yep.
Walk on.
on. No, completely. I'm just so thrilled about this season with what we're able to do now, like thanks to 100 Shares. I mean, with all the events that we got coming up too, like not only are we going to be on the podcast, but we're going to be able to meet people who listen to the podcast and like actually be like real life friends, which is going to be so fun. Like, I mean, it's one thing. I love that we have our space and that we get to connect with each other and then in that turn connect with other people who listen, but there's something different about the human connection factor of that. So I just wanted to personally say thank you to 100 Shares for that gift that we now have in the second season.
Yeah. It's so cool too. I love what you said. We get to enjoy something really special. I think you feel it even in the energy in this for Season 2. There's a closeness to this cast that we watched develop over Season 1. And for people listening that are a part of it, I hope everybody feels that too, that they're included, they're a part of this journeying together. But to do it live in the room is pretty special. And when we were dreaming about like what could happen, that was one of the things to say, wouldn't it be great if we could just do this live and have conversations like this that were true dialogue? But you have to create space for that, and that takes resource. And so 100 Shares stepped up, made it possible. And also then Buddy Brew met us with that resource and opened up Buddy Brew on Kennedy here in Tampa Bay, which is kind of like a really near and dear spot to us and our team. So we're going to be at Buddy Brew on Kennedy live once a month to keep these conversations going. So I love that. I think that's awesome. So thank you, 100 Shares. Awesome.
Yeah. So much exciting stuff coming in that we'll dive even more into of what those events will all look like. But I mean, it's been a while since we've been at the table chatting it up. What does the summer look like for everybody? We've been traveling around. What kind of trends have we been getting into?
I personally have had quite the quest of a summer, anyone else here? Side quests?
Side quest
In your
summer.
summer?
Side Quest Summer. We all know about Side Quest Summer. It's a viral sensation.
Jared branded his summer.
Yeah.
Branded it.
Quest.
Yeah, we wanted to get after it, do a lot of fun, random little things, and sometimes I talk in third person, just for fun, not any identity. So yeah, we did a lot of really fun little things, like got a tattoo, did a half marathon. I think those were all things Season 1 got to see a little peek of, but went on a lake trip, went to Chicago, a wedding, wore a pink velvet jacket. It was kind of crazy.
Jacket. I was pretty
What?
impressed.
I didn't
Yeah,
see this.
it was a double-breasted
jacket.
pink velvet jacket from Singapore.
Oh,
When did you wear it? Wait, when was this? What? How did I miss this?
It was a wedding in Chicago. It was pretty great.
it was
Yeah.
How did I
fancy.
miss this?
It's on my Insta, jaredthomas.pa. Follow me, please.
Shameless
Let's go look
plug.
at that.
Shameless plug. So,
Oh.
yeah, we got after it. It was a lot of fun.
I think on every episode we're going to talk about 100 Shares, Buddy Brew in Chicago. Somehow it's going to come
Somehow.
up.
So true.
Chicago always comes up.
I've been watching The Bear. I just started it like from
Oh.
beginning. Hadn't watched it yet, and man, love it. It's so
Good on
good. In Chicago too. It just made me
It's your
think of
trend.
it.
Yes, chef.
Oh, wow. Was that your summer
was his-
obsession? Did you watch
Yeah,
all?
honestly. So it was either that or I moved out this summer right before
Where?
the summer started, out of my family's home and into my own place.
Sick.
And so that was a big change. And so I didn't really have the finances to go take a big trip this summer or anything because I spent putting a down payment, moving out.
You bought new couches and
new
all
couches,
that too.
yeah, furniture, all those expensive
Get out of
things.
the woe is me. Man's got new couches, new TVs. Like, all right, buddy.
The expenses of moving. The expenses of moving. So I didn't get to go on vacation. So it was a lot of like staying at home. And so I like binge watched so much TV this summer. And so I binge watched The Bear, just finished that. That was great. And then How I Met Your Mother, another good one. That was really long and I finished it way too quick. And I kind of was upset that I finished it that quick.
Ted
But yeah,
Mosby.
pretty low summer.
Big Ted
I
Mosby
like
guy.
it. Very mature, honestly. Very mature. Very like in the sense
Been
of like
watching TV.
Been watching TV all summer. Considered it mature
you were
from
on top
Katya
of your
Guzman.
things. Like
Yeah.
like you knew what you could do and you knew what you couldn't and you like owned it. And I like
Yeah.
that.
That's valid.
That's one of those seasons too, and you have them multiple times through life. But we're moving. It takes a lot of money to
It's a
move.
nightmare.
Moving is always way more expensive. But there's something sweet on the other side of a move when you really do. You feel the contraction financially, and you're like, okay, I think we're just here enjoying what we have. And there's something sweet about that when it's a new place. So congrats, I love it.
It
Thank
can
you.
it can be. Not all the
Congrats.
time.
When you move to Tampa and you long for Chicago, I know.
No, I moved to a new place too, and it is wonderful. It has great water pressure.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah.
That's
Wonderful water
fun.
pressure, no other issues. It's great.
Well, I like to list the positive things and focus on that.
Stay positive.
So-
Great
Trend.
show.
What's the trend? What is the trend?
My trend. I went to a lot of concerts this summer. I really wanted to like do that at the beginning and I did it. And so that's fun. I went to a lot of country concerts. Went to an indie concert. Yeah, it was really fun.
Take us to the moment at a concert. One, pick a moment from a concert this summer where you were like, that's what I was hoping for.
Yeah. So out of all the concerts I went to, I actually just went to Zach Bryan yesterday, which was I've been telling everybody like that was probably like my favorite concert I've ever been to, simply because I went in thinking like, oh, it's gonna be like a fun like country like dancing kind of vibe, but then it was like completely. It gave me that, but at the same time, there was such a mellowness to it where he really made everyone think. At least he made me think. And I was just really listening to his lyrics, and he seemed like such a humble human. And so I left the concert with fun memories, but also just like a humility that I didn't know. Like I did know, obviously. I hope I'm a humble person, but why'd you look at the camera?
Just to be funny.
And so I don't know. I just felt moved, and I loved it.
I think we heard a lot of people. My daughter was at the Zach Bryan concert, and a lot of people were saying that there was something really powerful that happened, which shout out to Zach Bryan. That's a phenomenal gift to be able to be vulnerable like that in a stadium like Raymond James and allow people to feel what you're feeling and to have words for it and then put it into language and then do it in a way that's accessible to somebody. And that's a gift, vulnerability like that. To do that in a stadium, it's pretty special. And when you're not expecting it, you come in thinking that it's going to be a stadium concert and then it feels like a living room.
Oh,
that's a different thing.
He was there to move people for sure,
awesome.
because he was, I don't know, his words, he turned his grief and his insecurity and his despair, and he turned it into something so beautiful. And I mean, what a like perfect thing to bring into today's conversation as we like move into season 2, because I mean, I bet when he was writing those songs and thinking and like going through those events, because I know he was in the Navy and he probably saw a lot of death and he probably saw like friends coming and going, and in his own life he's like, what is going on? And so getting to peek into that, but then seeing him at a sold out concert in Tampa and thousands of people saying along to him, and he just seemed so like overwhelmed, like he kept like looking to the sky, and I was like, and he sings about God, so I mean, I don't know if Zach Bryan's a Christian, but like he just seemed so overwhelmed with gratitude. I think that's the best way I can say it. So
I think I'll throw it back to Jared for this, but season 2, we wanted to talk about the challenges that people face like we say walking on, you're not alone, we're in it, and it's a lifelong journey. Like that's one thing that we hope about this whole wayfaring conversation, is that people can recover a way of imagining the Christian life that's not like, oh, I get it all figured out and then I kind of coast in this new Christian version of reality. And it's like, no, life is going to be this long arc of faith and hope and love, and you're going to face incredible challenge along the way. And I think what Zach Bryan's Sold Out Raymond James show kind of indicates, people are hungry for that. They want the real. They want to have that conversation, and they want to have that in art. They want artists to bring us into that space. And so I hope in we were following that same kind of intuition to say, I think we're ready for that as a culture, to say, let's talk about these things and do them well. So that's season 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think his, what he brings to his music is like a level of vulnerability and authenticity that I think people, can recognize, when he's being himself. He's not trying to be this country star. Like, he's very much who he is, and it really separates him from a lot of artists. And I mean, what he's bringing into the music, his problems, what he's facing, I think is huge. And that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about in season 2, is thinking about the wayfaring journey. We talked so much in season 1 about really setting that up, what that looks like, and kind of a step by step. And, as we go to kind of embody that and proceed, there's challenges along the way, and there's so many problems in the world. We have problems from, everybody has an individual set of different issues that you might be facing that could be very unique to you. I think there's also like a level of like universal issues and problems that I think are very common. And that's really what we're going to try to focus on in season 2, is thinking through, those bumps in the road, those waves in the journey while you're sailing. And I mean, it looks like, doubt, fear, temptation, pride, malaise, excess, resentment. And you might not know what all those words mean. I know there's a couple on there that I had to do a little quick Google, get the Webster, get my dictionary out from season 1.
Good.
Glad we all learned.
Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good resource. But
TBT.
we're going to be really diving into those and talking about what that looks like in our lives, how that affects the wayfaring journey, and kind of, deep and personal into it, talking about the real life of it. Because I think it can be very easy, and you kind of have to in season 1, talk about the ideas of the journey, but like what the actual nitty gritty looks like. Like, I think that's kind of what we're going to get into, since we know you guys a little bit and you know us a little bit, feels like we can get a little more open.
Personal.
I think too, you said face them, right? The challenges we face, and you said it really casually. They're like, we all face these different things at different times, and then there's these universal themes that all of us face at some moment. But I liked how you said that, face them, because, and this may be an invitation for somebody who's listening going, okay, I'm in for season 2 because maybe I've hidden from them, or I've run from them, or I've kind of tried to ignore that reality. And really, growth and maturity, the wayfaring invitation is, no, don't hide from it. Don't run from it. Like, face that. And you're not going to do it alone. Like, we get to face that stuff. And when we face that stuff, something really beautiful comes from that. And so I hope it's an invitation in season 2 to say, like, challenges, yes, they are there. And that's universal. And there's some big themes that we're all going to face. And so let's face them together. And it's okay to be scared about that. It's okay to, you listed doubt, fear, temptation. Those are big universals.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting, especially this season, because of 100 Shares. Doing that in-person event is going to be so much fun. Yeah. So, like, getting to, have a podcast going on, we're really discussing a lot of this, but then meeting with people and, like, getting a cup of Joe and chopping it up. Like, I think that's going to be a very fun addition to this, and probably will help us even have better conversations on here.
Yeah. I can't wait for it. I'm looking so forward to, like, being able to, like, get into the conversation with you guys here, and then after, like, be able to get into it with, like, a group of friends. Like, not all my friends watch the podcast or are able to, and so it's like, it's great to, like, have an opportunity to be like, hey guys, come on out, like, hang out, like, we're gonna eat some food and have some coffee and tea and stuff like that, and just at a great spot in Tampa, Buddy Brew, like, get into, like, just sit with some friends, hang out on a Friday night. Like, creating that space too is great. Like, I feel like it's very hard to, like, get friends together sometimes, like, without having, like, a place for that. And so, like, having that place like Buddy Brew and having V3, like, put that in the Wayfarer cast be there, Like, it's just going to be an awesome opportunity, I think, to be able to like invite friends and then get deeper into the conversation with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, like Katya, to your point with Zach Bryan again, that what he did in a concert setting is give you permission to feel those things and to think those things. And I think that's the hope for these conversations, right? We're going to face them together. And then in the in-person place, like we're going to be a community. We're wayfarers, we who doubt, we who are afraid, we who are tempted and have faced that, right? There's something just right there to look around and be like, oh, you too, right? Like, it's good. I'm glad we're here.
No, that connecting point is like the amount of songs that I've heard of Zach Bryan's, like just through my headphones, and it hits, but there was nothing compared to that like in-person experience. And I bet you can relate to that with any kind of concert. Like all of a sudden you want to listen to every single album of that artist that you never thought of before, but because you saw them live once. So I definitely encourage everyone to come out. I know I would have wanted to have this when I was going through my moments of despair. So I hope you come. I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah. I think one of the hardest things is that you, in your struggle, I mean, it's very unique in a particular set of way. It's like when you go get froyo. It's like you're getting froyo.
Say more.
But, I didn't think about this
Season
analogy
2 is
until
not
now.
Five Guys anymore, FYI. We're going to Froyo season 2.
We've transitioned.
Jared glowed
That's
up.
the trend.
No, he didn't. He still eats Five Guys. Not that often, actually. It's been a minute. But it's a lot like froyo, where it's like it's individualized, but it's still the same thing. And so I think there's a uniqueness where, we can share the fact that we might all struggle with fear or doubt, but it's very unique. Like we could have fear in our job, fear in friendships, fear in a number of other things that are going on. And it's like the core of it is the same, but that's what's going to be so beautiful about those times, is that it expresses itself differently in all of our lives. And so I think that's kind of a fun nuance where, giving everybody the space to be vulnerable and share how that thing looks in your life, because it's not going to be the same. There's not going to be a fix for everybody's fear where it's like, oh, just do this and it fixes everything. It's like, it's so unique and individualized, but some people can think that it's like, well, just memorize this Bible verse, then you'll be good. And it's like, absolutely, yes, but also it's sometimes way deeper than that. And that's what we hope for that time to be, a place where you can bring that and not feel judged, and it be a safe space to talk about it.
I think for us particularly too, because it's the Wayfaring podcast, we made that distinction in season 1 of the difference between wandering and wayfaring, and that we are following one who has passed through doubt, fear, temptation, malaise, like the hope we have. We say we're people walking in the direction of hope. And hope has a name. There is a humanity that overcomes these things. And the big reveal is there is that call from Christ in us who says, follow me. And you can face doubt. You can face fear. You can, and those waters, you're going to pass through them, but they won't overtake you. And so I think that's the other thing I'm excited about this, is it's not just a conversation on, oh yeah, fear, and we all face it and there's nothing to do about it. It's like, no, fear is there and you can face it and pass through it, and you will pass through it and not be washed over. That's a beautiful promise, and that's a more hopeful way to live. So I think that reality of, it's a powerful cocktail to say that in my life, I have doubt, fear, and hope. And there's always that turn toward hope. And it's and. I love that.
Yeah, that's how the Psalms were a lot of the times, where David's being very raw and honest about what he's going through and feeling, but at the same time always acknowledging God and praising him for who he is.
Yeah.
Vision up.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
And then
There you go.
get a Bible,
is that
and a
technically
dictionary, and you're good.
Is that two?
Yeah.
Because the
Set
book
up
of
for
Psalms
life.
is that
It's a
the Bible?
canon of-
I mean,
Bible, 2
Oh,
books.
that's
ding, ding.
true.
I mean, I'm killing it.
Here's what I want to know, Katya, as you look at that list, and we talk about this, and we'll throw this one around, but even saying those things out loud and saying, doubt, fear, I'm curious, is there one of those, which one of those on that list, we say those are the universals, is there one right now coming out of summer? And you're in a transition, right? You left the context from your undergrad life, and you've got a hope and a future on the horizon.
Yeah.
Is there one that you're kind of like, that's what that breeze feels right now?
Yeah, I mean, could we do like an a la carte? Like,
Yeah. With
I
a
feel
side
like-
of temptation and a little bit of doubt.
Well, tell me I'm wrong, but like I feel like some of these are dependent. Like sometimes like you don't just feel doubt, but like you have a little bit of fear in there, and then it trickles in with some discouragement, some malaise, if you will. Yeah, and then it can create this like weird sense of like resentment. So it's like I feel like they really all play together in a weird way. But specifically, I feel like you said, I am in a transitional period where I'm going from something that was so known my entire life. You go through school, you go through your little side jobs, part-time jobs, like things like that. And now it's go. And what you do now is going to really form your purpose pretty much. Like who you are, the respect that you get from the community, the just like the weight of your future. And so I think something that's been really in my brain is I think just that, like thinking, how am I going to, because I'm taking a gap year as well, so I'm in between for grad school, and it feels very like lingering. Like I'm almost like, I wish I would have figured out I wanted to do this, which I'm not saying until it happens, a year ago. So I could have just gone straight into it. So I think that's where I'm at. And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to plan out my days so I know exactly what I'm doing, so I don't get to feel that feeling. It's almost like, it's not that I'm ignoring it, but I'm like, how can I solve this so I don't feel it? And so I guess it could, I don't know if it would be fear. I think maybe it'd just be like more discouragement in that way.
Yeah.
I like what you said about like how they're like, it's not always just one, like they're together sometimes. Like specifically, Jared, when you were like listing off just some examples of fear, like you said friends, and I hadn't thought of that, like fear, like the idea of fear but inside friendships, like losing friends. Like all my friends they're in that last year of college, and they're starting to like, all right, what's after this year? And like one of my friends just told me like he's gonna move after this year when he graduates, and I was like, dang. Like in that, now I'm like starting to think of that fear, like that fear soaking in of like, wow, like I have friends that are gonna be leaving, and it's like what's next? And I'm kind of scared. And so that idea of fear with that, fear for me is definitely sticking out. But I also think like there's also a sense of doubt in there. It's like, well, I know there's more in the future, but then I start to doubt that, because it's like, oh, all my friends are leaving. Maybe I'm not going to actually make more friends, how am I going to do this? And so I like how Katya, you were saying, like they're kind of commingled, and like it's not just one, but it could be both.
Yeah. Well, you think about fear tied to anxiety, that's in those things being aimed at the future, and resentment is really about the past. And those things are always true, right? Our past, we have that part of our story, this part of our story, and that part of our story. We're always feeling those things. And so there's a little bit back here, and there's a little bit of fear out there. And I think that's true. I think fear is probably going to be one of those. I mean, it's in November. That'll be like episode 3 going through. But I love that we're going to talk about that, because I think there's a lot of people I know who are listening to this podcast who are in big transitions. And good on you for the courage to do that gap year. That is harder than, I mean, if you just tuck your shoulder and just keep running and don't stop moving, whether it's right or wrong, sometimes just inertia alone is what we know. And so it's easier to push. But if you stop, it's just like anything else, you stop. And in the midst of that waiting, that's pretty unsettling territory. There's a lot of people, I think, feeling stuff like that, and transitions of school, transitions of housing, transitions of friends, and stage of life stuff, right? Like people graduating from universities and taking first jobs, leaving cities, wondering about promotions, new jobs, new opportunities. Will that leave relationship changes? And like all of those things, when we say these are universal, it's like, well, I'm not afraid of anything except I live in this state of change, and that produces something.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's funny how, you feel like it's just like varying degrees for each of these. It's like all of these exist in some level, like in each of our lives. And I feel like malaise, especially, which is one I had to Google. Shout out to the dictionary. But Malaise is just so easy, especially, you get scared of the future. You fear what's going to happen. You fear the unknown. And it's like malaise is so easy to slip in where you're like, just don't want to do anything. Or it's like you just doom scroll at night. Instead of going to bed, you're exhausted all day. And then you get in bed at night and you're like, I'm just going to sit on TikTok, and just keep going. And it's like very fascinating how it's so easy to just like spiral into those and how they all play together, how that can, I think, fear, doubt, even resentment. I had, you told a story about how God kind of winked at you with bread pudding this week. And
it's amazing.
It was a very cool story.
The bread pudding was amazing.
Yeah. And I went home expecting to find a cockroach in my apartment. I was like, that's what I expect God to do. Like, he's not going to give me a bread pudding. It's going to be a funny cockroach, which is just like, and there was no cockroach. Shout out my roommate.
What's the bread pudding?
There's not bread. That would be really shocking. There's just bread pudding in my apartment.
If somebody left bread pudding in your house, there's likely a cockroach coming.
If a cockroach brought me bread pudding, I'd be like, all right, God, I didn't need that big of a sign.
Watch this.
Yeah, please relax. But it's just like funny how it's like those little beliefs that we have of like, God, you're not going to give me this good thing that I'm hoping for. Like, it's going to be something else. Even though I would say God loves me, God has a good plan. I've seen God be so faithful in my life and provide in twists and turns in ways that I never would have imagined. And I'm so glad that I went through to get to me where I'm at. I still, this week, was like, there's going to be a cockroach in my house. I just know it, instead of bread pudding. And I'm like, this cockroach will be from God, but I will squish it. So it's funny how it's like those commingled realities of beliefs and like fears and doubts that are rampant in us. And I think trying to really dive into that and explore it in season 2 is going to be good.
I think too, statistically, it's easy we breeze past headlines that say like anxiety's up or depression's up or loneliness, all these things. And they start to get so common to us that we're like, oh yeah. And we forget that those are our lives and our friends and our names facing these things. And so you said malaise, like that failure to become, that acedia or sloth. People have said that's, if there was one for our moment that's universal, that we're all sharing, it's this weariness that comes. And I think people have attributed it to the disruption of COVID or just the seismic changes that were taking place. And part of what that leads to is just that, like, I don't know, a failure to become, I'm ready to give up, but not give up. I don't really know what to do. And so I'm just going to sit down for a second. And that failure to keep going, hope deferred makes the heart sick. Oh, right? Like I've wanted to hope, but I'm tired of hoping because I've been disappointed so many times that I'd rather give up hope than feel the pain of hoping and not having something come to be. So I think if you're listening, like this is season 2, right? Like I'm so grateful to get to do this together because this is the stuff that we feel at night when we are doom scrolling or that we are thinking about in our car or even walking into a Zach Bryan concert. We're like half present there, but also half in this other space. And if that's you, that's us. Like that is the wayfaring journey. So
yeah. And I think we're going to try to strike a balance in season 2 of being, the difference between like transparency and vulnerability. Like I think it's in our moment, especially like transparency seems to be, very easy to do, to be flippant of like, oh, I have anxiety, depression, like this, that, and another thing, which, you kind of can commend people for wanting to be open with those things. But I think, the harder thing, and one of the things in therapy, I had to go through a lot where I could talk about hard things, but then, letting people like into the emotion of how I feel about hard things is so much more difficult. And I think, requires a level of trust, requires a level of, both sides knowing that we're coming into sensitive moments of sharing. And I think, that's what we hope to do in this season 2 too, also, is not just, be like, yeah, I used to struggle. It's funny to be like Five Guys. I'd order Five Guys twice, but it's like, yeah, I felt like a hopelessness where it's like, well, at least I can eat and feel good. And it's like, that's like two very different things to be talking about. And so I think, as we head into this and we're talking about some very heavy things, we hope to, bring a level of vulnerability here that I hope resonates in a way that makes you guys feel comfortable, whether it's, at these monthly meetings or, sending us a message or with your own friends to really open up and let people in. Cause I think that's where healing is. And that's where, people want to help, but it's also not easy, and it's vulnerable to be vulnerable.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good one.
Well, I think cool. What a great hope for season 2. That not only will something beautiful happen here in season 2 and in the live events, but even just learning, we're not experts at being vulnerable and having these conversations, but just the fact that I think we get to be a part of what's happening broadly, which is saying, hey, we want to have these conversations and we want to learn to do them well. And so we can listen as people are figuring out how to do it well. And we can try to listen for somebody else's feelings and meet them there. And as we practice that hopefully that translates out, right? And it affects relationships at home and in our apartments, in our homes and neighborhoods, churches. So it's good. I'm excited. Season 2, Wayfaring is not an invitation to a trouble-free life. Wayfaring is not a straight line with no elevation changes, without weather, right? Wayfaring is all seasons, elevations, crooks and crannies and turns and twists and valleys and shadows and death. All of that is the wayfaring journey. And we are people who walk in the direction of hope, knowing that journey is going to take us in all of those places. And the human experience is one where you can enlarge through that as you face it, because we have this beautiful promise of God with us, even here. And we're never alone, right? When we make that confession, walking on, never alone, when we're saying, yes, that's true here. And also it is true in an incredible way that God said, I will be with you right there. So it's good.
And it's beautiful because I think, the struggles persist and we have a hope within them, and they're purposeful. I think they get used in ways, some of the hardest things in my life have shaped me in ways that I would never want them not to be true. It kind of reminds me of the quote, ships are safe in the harbor, but that's not what they were made for, and it's I think we were, made to go on an adventure of life and go through some really hard things. That doesn't mean we can smile and be happy through all of them, but I think there's a hope that if you can cling to that, you can, get through these a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
It's going to be fun. This hopefully helped kind of set the stage for us in season 2 of giving you guys kind of the purview of it, and really excited about this. This is just episode 1. We got a bunch more along the way and some events we're going to be hitting up at Buddy Brew. So
yeah,
going to be an electric season.
Before you take us out of here, I want to just get everybody's thoughts on this. This season, especially because we're talking about what we're talking about. And this is an election year, a lot of transitions, culture, all these things that we face throughout the journey. I think there's people who this conversation in season 2 is going to be a beautiful invitation to something that maybe they've been longing for. So how can people connect with the podcast, and how do we share it? How do we maybe invite people to help us share that? What are some of the thoughts that you all have had about good things like this, good tables like this? We go, man, I didn't know that place existed. And if I would have known I could have a seat at that table, I wish I would have had this conversation. How can we help share this a little bit and maybe invite some people to help us do that?
Yeah, through social media, I'm thinking is the best way that we can get that started. It's a great way to start conversations. If you want to share the post itself of where it's going to be, what time, it's a good way to connect with people who are like-minded in that way. So yeah, Instagram, you can follow us on the Wayfarer Podcast, Instagram, TikTok, Wayfarer Podcast, I believe it's also that same handle. So yeah, DM us if you want any more, if you have a question or you want the address or whatever it might be, we're always on there. So I think that's the best way that y'all can.
Yeah. And I think also if you're listening and you want that opportunity to sit at a table with people, these Wayfarer gatherings are going to be a great opportunity for that. Take that step out to be vulnerable and come out and meet us. We'll be there, meet other people that are going to be there. And it's going to be an opportunity to have that gathering and be at a table with people and get to hear, stuff that everybody's going through on this Wayfaring journey. So that's September 13th at Buddy Brew on Kennedy, 7 p.m. Be there. That's a great opportunity, I think.
Yeah. And that's going to be monthly, right?
Yeah.
First one's in September 13th, Friday. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
a Friday night?
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Friday the
Spooky.
13th.
Don't spend it alone. Spend it at Buddy Brew.
There you go. Buddy Brew on Kennedy. Friday the 13th, 7 p.m. And that's the first one. And then it'll be monthly after that. So what a great way. But yeah, connect with us. And I really encourage you, like, share this episode with somebody too, even just like, hey, I'm going to go on this journey. I know some good people who are trying to walk and find their way through this too, and pass that on. I've never, I just, it doesn't cease to amaze me, these little seemingly incidental encounters where you go, you know what? And we recommend something to a friend and they come back years later and they're like, I'm so glad that you introduced me to that book or that author or that event, and it shifted something in my story. So I think be bold about that. That'll be great.
I agree. No, you'll never regret a positive experience. I feel like that's whenever I have something come up in my like direction and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay, this is something I never would have expected me to be at, but like thinking about it, what will I take from it? And I can tell you, you'll take great coffee from it. You'll take great vibes, really cool people in Tampa to hang out with, same values, same beliefs, all wanting the same goal in life, pretty much. So I think it's great. I think it's a good opportunity and you shouldn't say no.
Yeah. Lean in.
Me forcing you guys.
You'll
to
never regret a positive experience.
Yeah.
You'll never regret a positive experience.
I agree.
Give me a quote on the shirt.
Yep.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening, everybody. This has been episode 1 of season 2 of the Wayfarer Podcast. Feel free to like, share, and until next time, see you then.
Pray for Jonathan.
Cheers.
We miss you, Jonathan.
Miss you, Johnny.